Well, hello, metalheads. It is once again Ian. I am well aware that I have not made a video in several months. Suffice it to say, my spring was very busy, my summer was very busy, and going into fall it was also busy. However, I am back to produce more metal content. So, everyone, like I said, I wanted to start a metal channel, and that is what I am doing. So, welcome back to the Stronghold of Metal. Today I will be going over 10, count them, 10 albums that you must hear that are masterpieces of 2010's metal. Like I said in my last video, metal is far from dead. Still a blooming genre. We got a lot of exciting stuff going on. So I'm going to give you a list of 10 2010's albums you must hear. Okay. So, by the way, this is in no particular order because I think all these albums are equally good. So here we have Dead Congregation. This is their second studio album from 2014, Promulgation of the Fall. If you are a fan of death metal, particularly the murkier style done by bands like Incantation, Immolation, and some Finnish death metal bands like Convulse, Demolich, Demigod, and all that, then you must absolutely check out Dead Congregation. In my opinion, this second album is an improvement upon their first album from 2008, which was called Graves of the Archangels. I feel the songwriting is better, and they get more of their independent identity as a band, as opposed to just another murky death metal band. Very, very good, high-quality stuff. I'm really, really enamored with this album. I can't really find any faults with it. Some of the standout tracks are definitely Only Ashes Remain, Immaculate Poison, and the very, very intense and pretty negative song, Schisma. Very cool album. You gotta check it out. Especially if you like the murkier style of death metal. So, up next, I have the doom metal band Beastmaker with their 2017 album Inside the Skull. You have got to check this out if you are a fan of bands like Witchfinder General and Pentagram. The vocals definitely sound like Witchfinder General and a bit of Angel Witch. And then the instrumentation is slightly stonerish, however it does revolve around mostly Sabbathy doom riffs. This is what I kind of jokingly dub as pop doom, because it's not that stereotypical doom thing where each song is like 7, 8, 9 minutes. These songs are like 3-4 minutes long, so it's just several quick songs, and it's only like a 38-minute album, so you're not going to be bored to tears listening to this for too long. It's just some really nice, quick, doomy songs, and I think you'll really like it. Maybe if you like Ghost or a band like that, you might like this, because, again, it's not too inaccessible. It's just doomy songs, and this came out on Rise Above Records, which is the label of Lee Dorian, who fronted one of my favorite bands, Cathedral. So it's kind of a really good label for doom stoner stuff, and I think you'll really like it. If you're looking for tracks to check out, definitely check out Now Howls the Beast, Nature of the Damned, and Psychic Visions, and Nightbird. Nightbird is a very cool song. Alright, up next I've got Bones, Sons of Sleaze. This is crust punk death metal type stuff. Now, when people hear punk and death metal, they often think of grindcore. This is not grindcore. This is definitely death metal, but there is a strong punk element. Just look at that cover art. It looks like we got this horrible procession to slaughter this terrified woman. So, yeah, some really cool stuff. If you like Asphyx, actually, you might really dig this, because this is kind of like Asphyx. I mean, it's not really doomy like they are, but the singer kind of sounds like Martin Van Drunen. Yeah, some really good songs. You definitely gotta check out Frozen Vein, 1000 Lies, and Cold Knife. Mind Eft is pretty good. There's also covered the classic Terrorizer song, Fear of Napalm. Terrorizer are one of the best grindcore bands you can find, so I think you'll really like it if you like Terrorizer, and if you like punk-influenced metal. It's kind of like bands like Municipal Waste and DRI and Stormtroopers of Death and all that kind of stuff, that crossover thrash. If that is the punk-influenced form of thrash metal, then this could be thought of as like the punk-influenced form of death metal. Really good stuff. I think you'll like it if you like both punk and extreme metal. So, moving on to something much slower, I've got Encoffination. Oh, Hell Shine in Thy Whited Sepulchres. This is a Death Doom album, however, Death Doom doesn't quite do it justice. This album is very slow, even for Death Doom. Like I said, when I think of Death Doom, I think of Asphyx and Autopsy. maybe some of the early gothic metal stuff like My Dying Bride and Paradise Lost. But I don't tend to think of stuff this slow because this reminds me of Incantation, but much slower. It's almost as slow as some Funeral Doom. However, it's definitely not Funeral Doom because the elements you would find in Funeral Doom, such as keyboard and all that, those aren't there. This is definitely Death Doom, and it's very murky. But I think you'll really like Incoffination if you're into slow, atmospheric stuff. And the whole atmosphere of this music is all about death. There's really no gore themes, no excessively violent themes. It's all about death and what mortality feels like and what it's like after you've died. So if you have that sort of morbid interest and you like stuff that is actually kind of relaxing in a weird way, then you should definitely check this out. It's very dreamlike, very murky, very interesting, slow-moving music. It never really gains any speed, but I think you'll like it. And you may notice, yes, the logo does seem to have copied Incantation a little bit. They said that was a deliberate nod to them. So you can tell where their influences are coming from. But you'll probably really like it, especially if you like Incantation. Fun fact, the main man of this band, this is only a two-man band, Incoffination, but the main man of the band, who is the guitarist and vocalist, he actually worked in funeral homes, and he worked with embalming dead bodies. So he really, I think that is where the influence about making a band that is all about death and mortality came from. So you'll probably like it. So up next we have Hellbringer with their, was this it was either a 2015 or 2016, maybe 2017 album, Awakened from the Abyss. I think you will really like this if you like Slayer, particularly the early Slayer stuff like Show No Mercy, Haunting the Chapel, and Hell Awaits. This has a very old school vibe, and it's has a very occult and kind of dramatic sound. You know, the vocals are very, very echoey, and it has that old school extreme metal sound that I think a lot of people really enjoy when they hear these days. It's very authentic. It's an Australian band, and they're not just some cheap copy of Slayer because they take the charm and influence that Slayer had on those early releases and really make it into something really cool, I think. And I think you'll really like it because a lot of modern thrash seems to piggyback more off of bands like Nuclear Assault, Death Angel, Testament, bands like that. It doesn't seem to piggyback off of Slayer quite as much because people forget. I've always thought Slayer was a unique band in thrash metal because if you compare them to bands like Nuclear Assault, if you compare them to bands like Testament, Anthrax, Death Angel, even Megadeth and Metallica, you will notice Slayer was definitely thrash, but they also fit in with the first wave of black metal, kind of like Celtic Frost, kind of like some of the early Creator stuff. And I'll tell you why. It's because Slayer were more fixated on violence and occultism than their fellow thrash peers. Their fellow thrash peers seem to be more about speaking against social injustice, singing about rocking out, having a great time. But, Slayer never wrote a song like Whiplash, like Metallica did. Slayer were focused on the violent side of things. And meanwhile, you had all those thrash bands having those awesome, semi-sarcastic, semi-humorous, attitude-filled lyrics and those cover arts that kind of look a little goofy, but very, very kind of cool. Done by people like Edward Repka, if you think about some of the cover arts he's done. A lot of those have a really attitude-filled and kind of humorous edge. Slayer never did that, and a lot of the modern thrash tries to imitate that more lighthearted thrash of the day. But this is one of the thrash albums that I think takes the Slayer route, and it really sounds like it could have been first-wave black metal back in the 1980s, so it's refreshing to see some thrash like this. I think you'll love it. Singer on that kind of sounds like Brett Hoffman, rest in peace, from Malevolent Creation. Of course, he's not really doing death metal growls because this is, of course, a thrash metal album. So just now I was talking about thrash. Here we got a death thrash album, Malice, Path to Holocaust, from 2013. Now, I don't know why, man, but Malice are so unknown. They are a death thrash band from Chicago, Illinois, and I guarantee you, if you like any death thrash, be it Demolition Hammer, be it Morbid Saint, be it Sepultura, be it any of that stuff, you will very much enjoy Malice, Path to Holocaust. The instrumentation seems to be very influenced by Obituary and Celtic Frost, as well as, I would say, Demolition Hammer, but it's also got quite a few melodic elements, and the vocals sound a bit like Barney Greenway from Napalm Death, maybe on the Harmony Corruption albums, if you like those. And to a lesser extent, it kind of sounds like the vocals on Clandestine by Entombed, done by Nick Anderson. So I think you'll really like it. especially if you like really death thrash. It's very very thrashy, but it's pretty extreme, and I really like it. These guys have been around since 2000, so they've been around for like 18 years now, but people don't seem to know who they are. So this album will be available to listen to on Spotify, Apple Music, and Google Play, your streaming platforms. It doesn't seem to be available on YouTube for whatever reason. You can find live performances of Malice, but you can't seem to find their studio recordings. But do check it out on your music streaming platforms because it's very underrated and very good. So next on the list, I've got the Finnish death metal band Crypts with their album Unending Degradation. Please check out that cover art. That looks absolutely sick. That's a very cool painting, and it reminds you of old school Finnish death metal, doesn't it? Bands like Adramelech, Convulse, Demigod, Funebre, Demolich, as well as some American bands like Incantation, Funebrarum, and all that. It's very slimy stuff, very gross, kind of doomy. Some of the melodies here kind of remind me of Thergothan and how they're dreamlike in their doominess. Of course, this is more death doom, not really funeral doom. But I think you'll like it. It's got a very good old school aesthetic. Really good old school death metal type stuff. Crypts is a really underrated band, and I'd love to see them get more attention. They come on Dark Descent Records, which is one of the best modern metal labels, especially if you like old school extreme metal. So I think you'll really like Crypts with their album Unending Degradation. Very murky stuff. Very cool. Up next, I have the band Purple Hill Witch with their album Celestial Cemetery from last year, 2017, at the time of this video. This is doom metal. I would say it borders on stoner metal as well. Celestial Cemetery definitely has vocals that might remind you of Lord Vicar and Count Raven if you are a big fan of doom metal. However, I would say it's a little more laid back, not super doomy. It's not like really depressive, downer doom. It's pretty laid back, pretty relaxed, borders on stoner, very Black Sabbath influenced. I don't think you can go wrong with it. Very riff-based album. Pretty relaxing, heavy enough. Yeah, I think you'll really like Celestial Cemetery. Especially the song Around the Universe. That one, really groovy. Really cool album. I think you'll love it. So, my next thing here, I've got the Doomsday Kingdom. Now, I don't know how this album has flown under the radar as much as it has, because in doom metal, Candlemass are pretty much one of the biggest bands, if not the biggest band, in all of doom metal. Heck, people say they practically invented epic doom metal with their album Epicus Doomicus Metallicus. So why Leif Edling, the bassist of Candlemass and the chief songwriter and the leader and the constant main man, why his side project, the Doomsday Kingdom from last year, has flown under the radar so much beats me. I can't seem to think of a reason why. This is really good stuff, as good as ever. Now, it's definitely more traditional heavy metal than doom metal, I would say. I would say Leif Edling hasn't necessarily stayed only doom. I would say there's definitely a lot of heavy metal influence on it, which is totally fine, but it does have doomy moments. But it's not as dreary as like Epicus Doomicus Metallicus per se. He paired with a vocalist who I believe was in. I believe this vocalist was in. It wasn't Avatarium, but this vocalist he's with was in a power metal band. I forget which one, but very very good band, very good album, and I think you'll love it, especially if you like classic metal with shades of doom. And if you like Candlemass, this is absolutely going to be your thing. Leif Edling does not disappoint in the songwriting department. Especially the tracks, The Never Machine, Spoonful of Darkness, and Hand of Hail are going to be great tunes you're going to love. Now, my final entry on this list will be the Canadian death metal band Chithalist, or Chithalist. I don't know how you pronounce it, and you can't really read that logo, but man, just look at that cover art. That's a really cool painting. And on this album, you can really feel like you're exploring this weird landscape, potentially on some alien world. This is called Le Dernier Crépuscule. Le Dernier Crépuscule, or something. It's French, it sounds like, which makes sense because this is a Canadian band, so they probably know some French. Yeah, this is a really cool album. Very murky, very reminiscent of Finnish bands like Demolich. I think you'll really like it if you like death metal with a lot of atmospheric and artistic elements. It's slightly technical. It wouldn't be to the point where I'd call it tech death per se. But yeah, really cool stuff. Very unique. One of the most unique releases from, I want to say this came out in 2016. One of the most unique releases, and I'm looking forward to seeing more Chithalist material. This came on Profound Lore Records, which is really another record label that does not disappoint. So yeah, 7 songs on here. I think you should definitely check out the songs Into the Vaults of Ingurgitating Obscurity. Oh yeah. You can definitely tell they were influenced by Demolich's song titles with stuff like that. And Void Spawn and Scriptures of the Typhloidians, all really good tracks you gotta check out. So, those are 10 albums that I think you guys should check out if you're looking for quality 2010s metal, especially 2010s metal that definitely harkens back to the old metal and is really good stuff. So, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Stay metal.